The history of Israel has always been a battleground of faith, power, and survival. They tried to wipe it off the map. They tried to erase its people, its faith, and its memory. But no matter how many times it was conquered, Israel rose again, defiant, unbroken, and determined to endure. This is the story of a land that refused to disappear. From ancient prophets to modern wars, from forgotten tribes to high-tech cities, Israel's story is filled with more twists and turns than most nations could ever imagine. If you've ever wondered how a small strip of land became the center of faith, conflict, and innovation for thousands of years, you're in the right place. Get ready to see the entire history of Israel in one documentary. The land we call Israel today has been fought over, traded, conquered, and rebuilt more times than almost anywhere else on earth. Every empire that came through this region thought they could hold it forever. The Egyptians, the Assyrians, the Babylonians, the Romans, the Crusaders, the Ottomans, they all tried to bend this land to their will. But each time, the people who called it home held on to something the conquerors never fully understood, a deep belief that this was their promised land. And that belief has shaped not only Israel's destiny, but also the history of the world. But to really understand why Israel became the battleground for faith and power, we have to go way back, to the very beginning. Long before anyone called it Israel, this land was known as Canaan. Thousands of years ago, it sat between mighty civilizations, Egypt to the southwest, Mesopotamia to the east, and Anatolia to the north. If you wanted to trade, invade, or move an army between continents, you almost always passed through Canaan. This crossroads made the region valuable, but also dangerous. Even in prehistoric times, people settled here because it had fertile plains, fresh water, and access to the Mediterranean. One of the first big settlements was Jericho, which is still around today and claims to be the oldest continuously inhabited city on Earth. Archaeologists have found ancient walls and towers in Jericho that are almost 11,000 years old. By around 3000 BC, a group of Semitic tribes called the Canaanites built city-states across the region. Cities like Megiddo and Hazor grew rich by trading goods and ideas with Egypt and Mesopotamia. They worshipped a group of gods and goddesses, just like their neighbors. Their religion blended with Egyptian myths, Mesopotamian stories, and their own traditions. But somewhere in the middle of all this, a new idea began to take shape, an idea that would eventually transform the entire world. According to tradition, a man named Abraham was born in Ur, in Mesopotamia. He felt called by a single God who told him to leave his homeland and journey to Canaan. The story says God promised Abraham that his descendants would inherit this land. Whether you see this as myth or history, it became the cornerstone of Jewish identity. Abraham's grandson Jacob, later called Israel, had 12 sons. These sons became the ancestors of the 12 tribes of Israel. Over time, famine pushed Jacob's family to Egypt, where their descendants eventually became slaves. This is where another towering figure comes in, Moses. According to the Hebrew Bible, Moses led the Israelites out of Egypt in a dramatic escape, called the Exodus. They wandered the desert for 40 years before finally reaching Canaan again. The conquest of Canaan wasn't peaceful. The stories say the Israelites fought many battles to take back the land. Over time, they established small kingdoms ruled by judges and eventually by kings. One of the first great kings was Saul, but the most famous was David. David captured Jerusalem and made it his capital. His son Solomon built the first temple, turning Jerusalem into the spiritual heart of the Jewish people. But unity didn't last. After Solomon's death, the kingdom split in two, Israel in the north and Judah in the south. This division made both kingdoms weak against larger empires. The Assyrians conquered Israel first, scattering its people. Then the Babylonians invaded Judah, destroying Solomon's temple and sending thousands into exile. That exile, though, didn't break the Jewish identity. Instead, it made it stronger. The people held on to their beliefs and memories of the promised land. After the Persians defeated Babylon, King Cyrus allowed them to return to Jerusalem and rebuild the temple. But more conquerors were coming. The Greeks, led by Alexander the Great, swept through the Middle East. Later, the Seleucid dynasty tried to force Greek culture and religion onto the Jewish people. This sparked the Maccabean Revolt, a successful rebellion that restored Jewish rule for about a century. Then came the Romans. In 63 BC, Pompey captured Jerusalem. Rome put local kings in charge, including Herod the Great, who renovated the Second Temple. But Roman rule grew harsher. Heavy taxes, corrupt governors, and a lack of respect for Jewish traditions fueled anger. In 66 AD, the First Jewish-Roman War broke out. It ended in disaster. Roman legions crushed the revolt, destroyed the Second Temple, and sent thousands into slavery. Another revolt, led by Bar Kokhba in 132 AD, was also crushed. After that, the Romans banned Jews from Jerusalem and renamed the province Palestine, hoping to erase Jewish identity. But once again, the Jewish people refused to disappear. They scattered across Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East, building new communities but never forgetting Jerusalem. For centuries, Jewish life revolved around keeping traditions alive in exile. Meanwhile, the land itself became part of the Byzantine Empire, then the Islamic Caliphates. In 1099, the Crusaders captured Jerusalem and set up a Christian kingdom. Less than a century later, Muslim armies took it back. The Ottomans ruled the area for 400 years until World War I. During the late 1800s, a new idea began to gain momentum: Zionism. Jewish thinkers and leaders believed the only way to escape persecution in Europe was to return to their ancestral homeland. Waves of Jewish immigrants moved to Palestine, buying land and starting new communities when the Ottoman Empire collapsed. After World War I, Britain took control of Palestine under a League of Nations mandate. Tensions grew between Jewish immigrants and Arab residents. Britain struggled to balance promises it had made to both sides. After World War II and the Holocaust, global sympathy for Jewish refugees reached a peak. In 1947, the United Nations voted to partition Palestine into separate Jewish and Arab states. The Jewish leadership accepted the plan, but Arab leaders rejected it. On May 14, 1948, David Ben-Gurion declared the State of Israel. The next day, neighboring Arab countries invaded. The 1948 Arab-Israeli War ended with Israel controlling more land than the UN plan had given. Hundreds of thousands of Palestinians became refugees, a tragedy still at the center of the conflict today. In the decades since, Israel has fought multiple wars with its neighbors: the Suez Crisis, the Six-Day War, the Yom Kippur War, and others. Each conflict shaped its borders, politics, and relationships. The Six-Day War in 1967 was especially significant. Israel captured the West Bank, Gaza Strip, Sinai Peninsula, and Golan Heights. The victory changed the map, but also set the stage for more conflict over territory and the status of Palestinians living under Israeli control. At the same time, Israel grew from a small, struggling country into a global leader in technology, medicine, and agriculture. Cities like Tel Aviv became hubs of innovation. Peace efforts have come and gone. The 1979 Camp David Accords led to peace with Egypt. In 1994, Jordan signed a treaty. But a final settlement with the Palestinians remains elusive. Today, Israel is a country of contradictions, ancient and modern, deeply divided yet remarkably united in its belief that survival is non-negotiable. For some, it is a beacon of democracy and resilience. For others, it is the symbol of a struggle that has never ended. If you look at Israel's history, you'll see a pattern that repeats over and over. Every time the land is conquered, its people are scattered, but the idea of Israel survives. It survives in memory, faith, and a stubborn refusal to let go. It's the same spirit that rebuilt Jerusalem after Babylon, that sparked revolts against Rome, that brought Jewish immigrants back in the 20th century, and that continues to shape politics and culture today. That spirit is what makes the story of Israel so powerful and so complicated. From the first settlements in Canaan to today's high-tech cities, Israel has been at the center of the world's attention for thousands of years. It's a place where faith, power, and survival have collided again and again. This is more than just the story of a country. It's the story of an idea that no empire, no war, no exile has ever been able to kill. But if you want to keep exploring stories like this, tap here to watch the next video.